All right, this is 12.5, and we're going to talk about volumes of pyramids and cones today. So if you go to your formula card and keep them up, there we go. All of our all of our pyramids and cones, which is essentially a pyramid, so all coming to a point, and they all have essentially the same formula set up. So it's always 1/3. Put parentheses around that one. And then you have the area of the base, so whatever shape is on the bottom, and then times by your height. So for a cone, the shape on the bottom is a circle, so we have pi r squared in the center. For this kind, we have pentagon, hexagon, octagon, all those types, and so that formula is 1/2 ANS, so that goes in the bottom. These are rectangles or squares, and the area for those is base times height, or sometimes I like kids to write length times width, because then you don't get messed up with the two heights. But this is height on the bottom, and this is height going through the center of the pyramid, so that height. So those are different heights. Last one, you got a triangle on the bottom. That's also a little tough because the area of a triangle is 1/2 base times height. So we would have like a base and a height when they meet at 90. That's down on the bottom of the pyramid, and then the other height is the one that goes straight through the middle. So you have two different heights in this formula. So let's try a couple and see what happens. First one is a triangular based one. So the formula for that is 1/3, and then we're going to do the area of the bottom and then times the height. So the height is a 9. That's the only place I can use that number. I can't use it again for the triangle. But if I trace the triangle on the bottom, it looks like I've got a 4 and a 6, and they meet at a 90. So that's my base, that's my height. And I just need to cut that in half. So 1/2 base times height, or base times height divided by 2. When you go to plug this in your calculator, you do need to watch for a couple of things. First, if you're going to enter this as 1/3, you're going to need parentheses around that 1/3, however you decide to enter it. Another way to type it in, I'll just write what I was going to do. All of the things on the top, so 4 times 6 times 9. Oops, that's a 6. I almost wrote 2 9s. 4 and 6 and 9, you could do all of that. Hit enter in your calculator, then divide by 2. Hit enter, and then divide by 3. So you could do them in stages. I'll show you both ways. So first, if you're going to enter it as like one shebang, like that whole thing all at once, make sure that you put parentheses around your 1/3. And then 4 times 6 is just 24 divided by 2, and then times the 9. The other way you can do it is do the 4 times 6 times 9 divided by 2. Oops, I didn't type anything. Divided by 2. And then divided by the 3. So in either case, we get 36 meters cubed. Next up, we got a cone. The formula for a cone is 1/3 pi r squared h. A little more straightforward. R is 5, and this time we didn't get height, we get slant height, so we're going to do a little Pythagoras to figure out actual height. So we got 5 squared, and my height squared equals 13 squared. So you'll find out that your h is 12. Oops, not an equal sign. H is 12. I'm going to put a 12 here. I put an equal sign instead of an h. And then again, when you go to type this in, it is safer if you put put the 1/3 in parentheses, so that's kind of protected. No matter what kind of calculator you have, you're going to need those parentheses. And then I'm going to times by pi, then I'm times by 5 squared, and I'm going to times by 12. So we got about 314.16, we'll go with, feet cubed. Sorry, my light's just turned off, so it makes it a little darker. Okay, there we go. Next up, I've got one of those. This is a pentagon bottom, so that formula is 1/3, and then 1/2 ANS, and then times height. So I've got 1/3, and then in here I've got 1/2. My A is 2.8. N, everybody can count number of sides, that's 5. Side length is 4. And height at the end is from the center of the pyramid all the way to the top, so that's a 7. Another place to kind of make your calculator a little bit easier to use, so once you get that 1/3 in there, instead of typing a half, you could just type 0.5. Then you have a little less parentheses, a little less fraction bars, might help out a little bit. Looks like this one's 65.33. Inches cubed. 2 more to go. The next one actually has a rectangular bottom. These two do not match, so the 3 and the 4 are different. But the formula still will work for us. So 1/3, and then we need base and height, and this is of the bottom or like on your formula card, I also wrote could be length times width just to kind of eliminate some confusion, and then times height of the pyramid. So 1/3, height of the pyramid is 7, that's the only place that number can go. And then I need length and width, or base and height of the rectangle on the bottom, which is 3 and 4. Gives us 28 feet cubed. One more, we got a little word problem to do. So the side length of a square base pyramid, that's important. So the shape on the bottom is a square. It means all of those are the same. There's my pyramid. Has a height of 144, so I know my h is 144, and then it also tells me my volume. So for this formula, we're going to need 1/3, and then like length times width times height. I know my volume is 2,226,450. I've got 1/3. We're going to talk about those two in a second, and I have height of 144. So since this is a square base, it means that all my sides need to be equal. It means if this one's 5, then so is that one. If this one's 27, then that one's 27. In this case, we don't know what it is, so I'm going to put an x there, which also means that this side is x. They have to be the same, whatever they are. So in order to find the area down here, I would just do length times width, or x times x. And now our job is to solve. The first thing I'm going to do, let's slide this over a little bit, is I'm going to take the 2,226,450, and I'm actually going to divide by 144. So I get 461. And then I still get that 1/3, and then an x times an x becomes x squared, so that's a little easier to look at. I kind of know what that means. In order to get rid of the 1/3, I'll show you two different things. I think the one that causes kids the most confusion is if you go to divide by this. They usually want to divide by 3. You would need to divide by 1/3. You got to keep that in parentheses all the time. A way that I think is faster is if you just multiply by 3 on both sides. It will mean just a little less mistake making to just multiply by that 3 and get rid of it, instead of attempting to divide by and then making sure they have parentheses in the right places. So I got x squared equals 46,384, and our last step to get rid of a squared is to square root, and I end up with about 215.37, and this was meters. So that's volume for pyramids and cones. Just make sure you're making sure that you have a height and not a slant. There are no slants in the volume formulas.